Right now you're hearing all your favorite music on your favorite station. But wait, there's more.
More songs from the artists you love on exclusive stations by Odyssey.
Just open the Odyssey app and click exclusive stations, then a genre to dive deeper into.
A station might be just music, or maybe hosted by Ed Sheeran, Chris Martin, or one of your favorite DJs.
Across alternative, pop,
country, soft rock,
Latin, R&B,
kids,
and even more.
Get more with exclusive stations by Odyssey.
Brought to you by Macy's, Geico, and Coke Zero Sugar. Odyssey's going back to school, and we've got all the supplies you need, like A-plus exclusive music stations and podcasts to help you or your student excel. Wake up and get the school day started with Acoustic Sunrise, the best mix of acoustic pop. Hit the books with Classical Odyssey, passionate classical music to help you focus while you study. Listen to essential school podcasts like Grammar Girl's Quick and Dirty Tips for Better Writing, and be inspired with TED Talks Daily. Get back to school with new exclusive stations, plus all your favorite local radio stations and podcasts on Odyssey.
Tomorrow, 4 to 7 p.m., the Fans and the Pros with the voice of the Saints, Mike Hoss, and Saints all-time leading rusher, Deuce McAllister, We'll break down the Saints home opener with Fox NFL analyst and Super Bowl champion Jonathan Vilma at 4:30. And then what's on the menu for Saturday night in Death Valley? Will LSU be the Tiger King over Auburn? All coming up tomorrow, 4 to 7, right here on WWL. And speaking
everybody take a nap
before
that game.
Yeah, take a nap.
Well, you might have to in the condition some of them will be in.
Yeah, some of them won't make. Sadly, won't even make the game. Some of them won't. They're not going to pace themselves, and they'll end up passing out before the game. And anyway, Mike Hoss, the voice of the Saints, joining us now. Hoss, how are you, man?
I am good. It's been a fast week. Sunday is almost here.
How much have you looked forward to this? Just because of Ida, it's your first year as a play-by-play guy. I mean, finally getting a home game with fans.
With fans, that's kind of the neatest part. I was working on a video today that included some 2019 video and music, and I was like, wow, man, that just was so much craziness, fun, loud, and you had to have been at the games last year to appreciate 2019 because 2020 was so much different. So I am very much looking forward to the crowd being there and really providing the home field advantage that the Saints didn't have much of last year, but neither did really a lot of teams.
Mike Hoss, the voice of the Saints here on Sports Talk. Saints and Giants, noon kickoff. You and Deuce will have the call. It's an 0-3 team, and they're underdogs by 8 points to the Saints. I know you're not a big gambling line guy, but, man, that's a lot of points for the Saints.
That's a lot of points, and this is an incredibly much better team than 0-3. So they lose to Denver week 1, didn't play very well. They go to Washington, really Landover, Maryland, for game 2. First off, Daniel Jones has a 58-yard touchdown called back. He ran for 95 yards and had 58 called back. They're winning the game. Last-second field goal by the Redskins misses. Giants win, but they're offsides. So they get another kick, make it on the second one. They go to 0-2. And then last week with Atlanta, they've got the ball midfield, 2 minutes to play in the game, at home, and they're driving. And they lose 17-14. They had to punt it away to Atlanta. Atlanta drove down quickly, got in field goal range. So the last 2 games, they were winning and in position to win both of those. They're just, I hate to sound like a coach, they're just a much better 0-3 football team than, you just look at the record.
Hoss, I think one of the things and he passed away this summer, but my neighbor Joe Clark, man, he used to always tell me, he coached in the NFL for like 40 years. He was like, Mike, on a team like that, you knock the stuffing out of them early. They got no confidence. They're looking for a way to lose. And if you jump on them early and the crowd gets involved, then all of a sudden, he said, I've coached teams like that. They start sniping at one another. Oh, what did you do? Or what happened on this? Man, I think early on is going to be crucial for the Saints to get the crowd involved, hit some big plays, get on the scoreboard early, and have the Giants sort of turn on the Giants. Because this football team's playing with no confidence, nothing. because they are inventing ways to lose. And I agree with you, Daniel Jones. He's not the biggest problem they have. Man, they're finding a way to lose games if it's a defensive lineman jumping off sides or if it's a receiver not running the right route. They don't run the football enough with Barkley. Their offensive line has really been ragged all season long. Man, if you can jump on them early and sort of knock the stuffing out of them, then you hear the sniping coming from the Giants.
I agree. I think they're a team that has not proven or shown this year that they have the ability to come back if they get down big. And they've got two receivers right now who have been played very well, Sterling Shepard and Darius Slayton, who haven't practiced yet. And they've got 9 others who are limited at practice. So they're a bit banged up. The Saints will be probably without Eric McCoy and Teron Armstead. We can pretty much go with that at this point. But I agree. They don't seem to have the weapons to be able to come back. Now, they've averaged 24.7 points a game. The Saints have averaged 24.3. So they're very similar. The problem with the Saints stats is that we're going to have to live with the Carolina stats in there for a while. It's going to kind of throw things off a little bit because that game is just so difficult offensively. But I agree with you. If the Saints can get out there, get home, get on top, and really start to rattle Jones. Now, he's tough to rattle. Now, I've watched 3 of their games. He probably, for a young quarterback, does about as great a job with play action as I've seen. He will put that ball into the stomach of the running back and then pull it back, and he'll either throw it or he'll run it either direction, left, right, or the middle. He's very dangerous. The Saints will have to be enormously aggressive yet disciplined. They've got to be very disciplined with a guy like Daniel Jones because he'll get on the outside, and he's got the speed to pick up 10, 12, 15 yards a pop.
Hoss, it's interesting you bring that up. It was going to be what I was going to bring up to you. In watching him, Daniel Jones was a regular at Manning camp, and almost as though he was part of the Manning family. He was like almost the fourth son. He sort of, was part of that crew. And what I saw Peyton Manning do with him a lot is teach him play action, the fake. And, I think about it, Eli did it really well. Peyton did it really well of sticking that ball in there and pulling it out. Now, he can run with the ball better than what Eli and Peyton could, but that was something in watching him throughout the years at the Manning camp. They worked a lot on that, on kind of, how to get it out of there quick and also to get your head turned around and keep your eyes downfield. And so I'm glad you brought that up because that was something I was going to ask you about. You can see it with him. He has been well schooled with that. And then he was also coached by David Cutcliffe, who coached Eli. So
you see it.
You can clearly see it in his play. He's a better runner than what Peyton and Eli were when they were playing. But that play action stuff was something they worked on a lot at Manning camp.
He takes a lot of snaps out of the shotgun with Saquon beside him. They do a lot of delayed handoffs, or, again, it's right back to you think he's going to get it. You think it's going to be the Saquon handoff, and he keeps it, throws it, or runs. He just does a very good job. And I'll tell you what else he's taken from Peyton, and this is on the fans this weekend, and that's Omaha.
Yep.
He's Omaha at the line, and so it's up to the fans to make sure that his offense can't hear him say Omaha, because you can hear him at the Giants game when they have the ball. Obviously, it's quiet. It sounds like he's got a microphone on him.
He's loud.
That'll be on the Saints fans this weekend to make sure he doesn't get to say Omaha too much where his offensive line and offense can hear him.
Mike Hoss, the voice of the Saints here on Sports Talk ahead of Sunday's home opener for the Black and Gold at noon against the New York Giants. Mike, how do you like the play of Calvin Throckmorton, who's filled in along the offensive line with Eric McCoy out and Ruiz at center?
I think it's been okay. I mean, there have been times when he has, gotten beat. I assume we're going to have James Hurst at left tackle, where he filled in last week after Teron went down. Each game, Throckmorton and Ruiz working together. They got riders as well. They got some other options. But what the Saints did last week, what they were able to do on first down running the ball was the difference, in my mind, in the football game. 9 times in the first half, they ran it on first down and averaged about 4.5, almost 5 yards a carry. Ran it on first down 9 times in the second half, averaged more than 5 yards. So that just changes everything. I know you can throw it on first down and pick up 4 or 5, but when you run it against a team at home and average 4 or 5 yards a carry, you are changing the dynamic of the football game. And if they can do that again this week on first down, run the ball, that will take so much pressure off of this offense and off of Jameis Winston and some of the receivers who, if you look at this receiving crew, nobody really stands out other than Deontay Harris. So looking forward to seeing maybe more of that crew step up this weekend.
Mike, I think what was impressive last week, and Hebert and I were talking about this Monday, was you saw the Patriots stack the line of scrimmage and the Saints were still able to run the football. Because their deal is, okay, if you're going to beat us, let Winston beat us throwing it. But we're not going to let you run the football. You rushed for over 140 yards in that game. So there were different times in that game where you sort of controlled the tempo because you were running it. Now, listen, they got a lot of these stat nerds. They don't want to hear that. It's about the pitching and catching. And I get it because the game's built that way. But the physicality of being able to run the football when you need to and have to is a huge part of this game. No matter what level you play in, you got to be able to do it at certain times. And I think we're seeing a little bit more patience. And I think we saw it last year with Sean Payton and the running game to stick to it when maybe early on it's not quite there.
Totally agreed, and it's totally needed. Jameis Winston had 6 pass attempts in the second half in New England. And when they're running the ball, are we really talking about Calvin Throckmorton and Cesar Ruiz, really? When they're running the ball like that, it's really when they're in passing situations, when maybe they've gotten beat on a swim move or a spin, whatever. Maybe they picked up the wrong guy, didn't call out. That's the issue. But when they're running the ball, I think that's when we talk very little about how those guys are doing. So you're right. I just feel like, and I think from what I've seen, now the Giants play a 3-4, but they'll bring both of those linebackers up.
Yeah.
They'll stack it. They'll stack it hard, just like everybody else. You beat me running the ball. And that was the impressive part of what the Saints did with New England. Like you say, they stacked it. They still gained 4 or 5 yards on that first down. And that's a backbreaker for a defense when you know they're going to run and you know they're set up to stop the run and you still do it. Backbreaker.
Mike, earlier this week, Jameis Winston was asked if he would throw that ball again like he did, kind of threw it up for grabs as he was going down, and Callaway came down with it. He was asked if he would throw that ball again, same scenario, and he said absolutely. Well, when you say that, I can guarantee you Sean Payton's reaction would not be absolutely. Go ahead and do it again. That's not good.
No, it was because from what Sean said, is it just that he was in the grasp. It wasn't that, it wasn't open or should have made the decision earlier. He had some green in front of him to run the ball. There were a couple of throws that it's still a beat too long, right? It's still a beat too long that he's holding on to the football. Not all of them. I think this is going to be a progression. This is 3 games. Look at the Saints. The Saints are averaging 24 points. They're 2-1. The Giants are averaging 24 points. They're 0-3. So it's not going to be perfect every week. As long as he plays smart and gets rid of the ball or runs it, I think he's going to be fine. But I think that was the problem. It wasn't that he threw it while he was in the grass. But I hope you get away with it. It's one of those, oh my gosh, yes.
Horst, one of the things, too, is, and we all know, with Rosas, he's a rent player. We're just waiting for Lutz, and it won't be this week. Be somewhere down the line, if it's next week or after the bye, whatever. But, man, this special teams has really played well. You think about the punting game with Blake Gillikin. He has done a really good job. Their return game with Deontay has been really good. The coverage part of things has been solid across the board. That now you're going up against a head coach. Guess what he was in New England? He was a special teams coach. And so you beat Belichick, and he puts a lot of emphasis on special teams that I think down the stretch, once you can get Lutz back healthy, that is going to be such a huge part of this football team, because I think you're going to be playing some games that are awfully close as we get into, later in October and November. And, that people don't realize how important special teams are until you get beat by screwing up a special teams play.
I wonder, the Saints decided they were not going to bring in anybody and stay with Rosas. I wonder if it will impact Sean Payton's play calling at any point on Sunday. If you get into a situation where you may call different plays, go for it when maybe you might have taken a field goal, you just wonder if it will have an impact. Now, I will say, and I'm not sticking up for Rosas, I've never seen wind like that at a football game. I asked John Carney about it Tuesday night because the flags at the top of the stadium were blowing. All right, we had some wind. The flags on the goalposts, the little ones, were blowing a little bit, and then we'd go to the referee, and it sounded like he was in a wind tunnel. I was like, how is that possible? So it was a really tricky wind, but pulled one, hooked the other. Mm-hmm. I'm curious if it will have an effect. Now, I will say the other push, that's one aspect of special teams. There was a punt, I remember, that the Patriots kicked. They made a fair catch, and standing in front of him were both J.T. Gray and Ty Montgomery, just standing there, waiting. And I was like, those guys have emerged. They've, it would have leveled him. But just the fact that they had beaten their guys, gotten down there, I think they've emerged.
And Ty never has been a gunner on special teams before. Never done that before. Yeah.
The Saints talked about just kind of reinventing himself. He wants to be the star wide receiver, but sometimes you can't. Now, not every player will go, well, I'm going to do what's best for the team and what's best for me, really. But that's what he's done. And, you make an impact. You stay in the league. You get your chances at wide receiver maybe down the road, but you stay on the team and you make an impact. And that's what he's done. I think that's impressive because special teams is all about just heart. It's heart and gut.
It's wanting to do it. Rich Marty and I talk about this weekly on a television show, and Rich was like, man, I wasn't the greatest athlete in the world, and I couldn't run fast, but I wanted to play special teams, and I figured out ways to do it. And he said, that's the most important. You got to have a heart. You got to want to do it. And he said, also, there's a few tricks to the trade to get around people on special teams. And he said, I figured that out real fast. So I agree with you.
Mike Hoss, the voice of the Saints, thank you so much for the time. Have a good call on Sunday. We'll talk to you then.
All right, gentlemen. Have a good evening.
All right, we'll step away and come back. Mike and Kristian here on Sports Talk on WWL.
I'm Erin Ryan, political commentator, comedy writer, and host of Crooked Media's Hysteria.
And I'm co-host Alyssa Mastromonaco, former White House Deputy Chief of Staff for President Obama.
Each week on Hysteria, we are joined by a team of hilariously opinionated ladies to discuss the headlines from the serious to the absurd.
We cover everything from reproductive rights to rom-coms and break down the political news of the week and cultural stories that affect women's lives.
New episodes of Hysteria drop every Thursday. Listen on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Right now you're hearing all your favorite music on your favorite station. But wait, there's more.
More songs from the artists you love on exclusive stations by Odyssey.
Just open the Odyssey app and click exclusive stations, then a genre to dive deeper into.
A station might be just music, or maybe hosted by Ed Sheeran, Chris Martin, or one of your favorite DJs.
Across alternative, pop,
country, soft rock,
Latin, R&B,
kids,
and even more.
Get more with exclusive stations by Odyssey.
Brought to you by Macy's, Geico, and Coke Zero Sugar.
There was stories of these girls that would leave his house and they would have to swim out in the lake and get away from them. He has a secret room in his house. He put me in there, she said. I don't want anybody to die anymore. I don't want anybody else to die. I'm looking for Ashley.
Season 3 of Up and Vanished is available right now. Listen for free on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.